Why U.S. will find itself at war with Iran. The relationship between the United States and Iran has long been characterized by strong animosities, frequent confrontations, and suspicion. Tensions between these two countries have simmered for decades, fueled by a complex web of historical grudges, ideological disagreements, and geopolitical competition, periodically escalating into crises, with far-reaching ramifications for regional stability and global security. Iran's nuclear ambitions are at the heart of these tensions, as the U.S. and its allies see them as a potential threat to regional and global stability. The imposition of stringent economic sanctions by the United States in response to Iran's nuclear program has strained relations even more, exacerbating economic hardship in Iran and heightening diplomatic enmity. Aside from the nuclear issue, regional proxy wars and military buildups have intensified the standoff, with both sides increasing their military capabilities and alliances. Iran's support for militias around the Middle East, along with the U.S. military presence in the Persian Gulf, creates an environment ripe for escalation, with minor skirmishes quickly ballooning into larger regional warfare. This film looks into the several reasons why the United States and Iran may be on a collision course for conflict, including historical context, geopolitical dynamics, economic interests, and ideological differences that continue to affect their troubled relationship. 1. Historical context and geopolitical rivalry. U.S.-Iran relations have been distinguished by a series of highs and lows, with the Iranian Revolution of 1979 serving as a watershed moment. Prior to this significant event, Iran was a critical strategic ally in the Middle East under the government of Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi, who was strongly supported by the United States. However, the revolution resulted in the foundation of an Islamic republic led by Ayatollah Khomeini, which significantly altered Iran's foreign policy and strained relations with the West. Since then, mutual distrust and frequent arguments have defined the relationship. The U.S. has often accused Iran of aiding terrorism and secretly pursuing nuclear weapons, while Iran sees the U.S. presence in the region as imperialist and interventionist. This historical setting has created the conditions for ongoing tensions, which occasionally escalate into the possibility of military war, as both countries negotiate their ideological differences and strategic objectives in the unpredictable Middle Eastern terrain. 2. Nuclear ambitions and international sanctions. One of the most problematic problems in U.S.-Iran ties is Iran's nuclear program. Iran claims that its nuclear objectives are peaceful, focusing on energy production and medical research. However, the United States and its allies believe Iran is secretly pursuing nuclear weapons, which they warn would destabilize the region and jeopardize global security. These fears have prompted a series of international sanctions aimed at pressuring Iran to relinquish its nuclear program. The United States in particular has imposed harsh economic sanctions that have harmed Iran's economy and fueled domestic political instability. The standoff over Iran's nuclear program has frequently pushed the two countries to the brink of war, with the U.S. threatening military action to prevent Iran from attaining nuclear capabilities. This standoff highlights the high stakes involved, as diplomatic attempts, international sanctions, and military posturing collide in a volatile geopolitical context marked by distrust and competing strategic goals. 3. Regional proxy conflict and military buildup. Aside from direct bilateral tensions, regional proxy conflicts and military buildups have a significant impact on U.S.-Iran ties. Iran has formed relationships with different non-state actors and militias around the Middle East, most notably Hezbollah in Lebanon and Shia militias in Iraq and Syria. These groups act as proxies for Iran, allowing it to exert influence and project strength in the region, while indirectly competing with U.S. and ally objectives. In response, the United States has increased its military presence in the Persian Gulf and backed regional allies like Saudi Arabia and Israel, both of which see Iran as a main regional adversary. This reciprocal military development increases the potential of unintentional escalation and miscalculation, in which localized battles might quickly expand into bigger regional warfare, with direct clashes between the U.S. and Iran. Such dynamics highlight the volatile character of U.S.-Iran ties, where proxy conflicts and military posturing add greatly to the risk of greater geopolitical instability and armed confrontation in the Middle East. 4. Economic interests and energy security. Economic concerns have a considerable impact on U.S.-Iran relations, particularly given Iran's large oil and natural gas reserves. which place it as a prominent player in the global energy market. Potential disruptions in oil supply from the Persian Gulf due to military conflict or instability represent a direct danger to global energy security, affecting economies around the world. For the United States, sustaining the stability of the region's oil flows is both an economic and strategic necessity. Any disruption might result in higher oil prices and geopolitical instability, hurting both the United States' allies and rivals. This economic factor hinders efforts to de-escalate tensions and reach peaceful agreements to Iran-related problems. The connection between economic interests and energy security highlights the complexities of U.S.-Iran relations, where geopolitical conflicts, regional stability concerns, and global economic repercussions intersect. Addressing these linked concerns necessitates a delicate balance of diplomatic engagement, economic pressure, and strategic calculations aimed at protecting international energy markets and fostering Middle Eastern stability. 5. Ideological and cultural clashes. Ideological and cultural differences add to the complexity of U.S.-Iran relations. Iran's Islamic Republic sees itself as a bulwark against Western influence, calling for a regional order based on Islamic principles. In contrast, the United States emphasizes liberal democracy, focusing on human rights and individual liberties. These opposing worldviews frequently spark debates over human rights breaches, freedom of expression, and the role of religion in public life. Such ideological differences undermine diplomatic relations, while also fueling domestic political narratives that portray Iran as a malignant player endangering Western ideals and interests. The clash of these ideological and cultural perspectives highlights the deep difficulties between the two countries, which influence policy decisions, public debate, and worldwide perceptions. Addressing these disparities necessitates crossing a complicated landscape of historical grievances, geopolitical interests, and ideological convictions, which poses enormous difficulties to efforts to resolve problems and develop meaningful engagement between the United States and Iran. 6. Escalation dynamics and military preparedness. The possibility of a military conflict between the United States and Iran is enhanced by escalation dynamics and military preparation on both sides. Both countries have significant military forces, including modern weaponry, ballistic missiles, and cyber warfare capabilities. A military conflict is expected to result in severe casualties and humanitarian effects, with long-term ramifications for regional stability and global security. Furthermore, the lack of direct diplomatic channels and trust-building measures raises the likelihood of misunderstandings and miscommunications, which could unintentionally exacerbate tensions. The lack of continuous conversation and diplomatic interaction increases reliance on military deterrence and coercive diplomacy as key means of dispute resolution, enhancing the risk of armed war. These dynamics highlight the precarious character of U.S.-Iran ties, where military posturing and escalation dynamics add greatly to the risk of larger global instability. Addressing these difficulties will require fresh efforts in discussion, confidence-building measures, and international diplomacy to reduce the risk of conflict and enhance stability in the Middle East and elsewhere. 7. International diplomatic effort and mediation. Despite these obstacles, there have been occasional attempts to de-escalate tensions and negotiate diplomatic accords. International organizations, such as the United Nations, the European Union, and neighboring countries have attempted to facilitate contact and mediation between the U.S. and Iran. Diplomatic initiatives like the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action (JCPOA), also known as the Iran nuclear deal, seek to address specific issues such as Iran's nuclear program through multilateral negotiations and agreements. However, these initiatives have repeatedly failed due to internal political opposition, leadership turnover, and competing geopolitical interests. The Trump administration's withdrawal from the JCPOA in 2018 and the subsequent reimposition of sanctions strained diplomatic relations and heightened tensions. Conclusion. To recap, the likelihood of war between the United States and Iran is determined by a complex interplay of historical grudges, geopolitical rivalry, nuclear ambitions, economic interests, and ideological differences. Tensions between these two countries have been building for decades, periodically escalating the confrontations that threaten regional stability and global security. Efforts to decrease tensions through diplomacy and international mediation face significant challenges, exacerbated by internal politics, regional dynamics, and conflicting strategic objectives. The risk of armed conflict remains constant, fueled by escalation dynamics, military preparation, and a lack of ongoing diplomatic engagement. Finally, a peaceful resolution to the U.S.-Iran issue would require a renewed commitment to diplomacy, confidence-building measures, and recognition of shared interests in regional stability and global security. However, the path to peace remains fraught with difficulties, emphasizing the significance of continuous international efforts to prevent bloodshed and promote peaceful coexistence throughout the Middle East and beyond. Let us know in the comments what you think about the relationship between the United States and Iran, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more captivating content on our YouTube channel.